All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here, Mark P. Markets. Thanks for joining me for another Greenbridge investing market analysis. So in this session, again, we're going to update what we talked about earlier in the week. On Monday, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. I want to talk about the stock market real quick, and I want to talk about gold. The reason why I focus on these markets, like, the broader stock market and gold, is because they're a reflection of like broader economic, I guess you could say, trend. So, or a reflection of interest rates and something like that. When there's a decisive move in the broader market, it can set the tone for the months ahead. That's why I always focus on these things. So you look at the bonds, you look at the dollar, things like that, because it's important to get a sense of the overall situation. Because especially in an environment right now where there's a lot of indecision and a lot of there's just a lot of speculation, a lot of talk and this and that, and the market is not doing anything decisive. So it's hard to take positions here with any confidence. Okay, so anyway, with that being said, let's get into this. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Also, if you are new to the channel, please share the stock symbol or the coin that you'd like me to take a look at. And once I complete my portion of the analysis, I can take a look at your coin or your stock. If it's a coin, please put USD or USDT after it so that I don't look at the wrong symbol. All right. So with that being said, let me say hello to a couple of people here. I got Bart. Hey, Bart from Uruguay. Mucho gusto. Oleg from Ukraine. All right. And Elizabeth from Boise. Cool. We have an American here. Yeah, if you want to share what city or what country you're from, it's always a cool thing. I love doing that on TradingView. If I can ever get my stream running back on there, I always get people from all over the place. Okay. Anyway, so let's talk about Bitcoin in this Bitcoin situation. Now, here's the thing. Some people have asked me about the potential. There was a buy signal, okay, the other day. Here, let me go over here to this thing, and there was a buy signal on this candle when it took out the 47K, okay. But the thing is, and I looked at it, and I was looking around the context of this area, and I said, I'm not going to call this signal. The reason I don't like this, again, is because even though the reward risk, you were looking at about 4,000 points of risk because your stop would have to go around 43.5 or maybe slightly lower. The thing is, you're buying into this congestion over here. This is a consolidation. It's also part of the 50K resistance zone. All right, this area right here. Going back, you can see I have this box noted over here as well. Why would I want to buy into that, as Seinfeld would say? So that's the problem, right? So the chances of a fake out are very high. Do I want to sit here and monitor this thing and babysit this thing only to see a candle develop like this? And now I have to make an adjustment. Now what? Now do I do? Now I have to keep an eye on it, maybe take a small loss. Now if this candle closes like this, what if this candle takes out the low of today's candle, it closes, and the next candle takes out the low? That's a sell signal. That's also a fake out in a resistance area, right? I don't feel, it's just not worth the effort. It's just not worth the energy. This thing needs to go to 51K. If I bought it at 47, which I didn't buy it, but if I had bought it there, it would have to go to 51K or slightly higher to justify my risk at 1-to-1. There's going to be so much hesitation in this area that I think it's just more reasonable right now to anticipate the lower high or the fake out. Okay, so it's going to catch a lot of people long because a lot of people, they get sucked into all this hype and all this hope. I mean, I saw a video title the other day. I don't even watch the videos anymore because I just can't watch them. But the title was something like, everything you need to know about Bitcoin. Okay, never heard of the guy, all this and all that, 150,000 views. Now, I mean, what's he going to tell me about Bitcoin that I can't find out anywhere else? Meanwhile, 150,000 views. So when you have people like that, again, I don't even think they even qualify as a fake guru. I don't even think they're just a guru. They're just someone, right? Just someone with an interest in Bitcoin, whatever you want to call them. They're amplifying the herd mentality. This was a role that was basically back, 20 years ago, this role of amplifying the herd mentality was reserved for mainstream news, right? Mainstream financial news. That was the amplifier of the herd mentality back then. There was no Twitter, there was no YouTube, there was no TikTok. If you're watching financial people on TikTok, you got problems. Hopefully you're a teenager with no money, because I would imagine that's who's mostly watching them. But if you're not a teenager and you're investing like, a significant amount of money, I hope you're not watching TikTok. Anyway, my point is those platforms did not exist back then, right? So these days, the role of amplifying the herd has moved onto these social platforms, which in a way is good for people who can think like a contrarian and understand what it is that is coming out of these platforms, okay? It's not something you can follow. It's something that you should really think against. Anyway, so that's the point here with Bitcoin. A lot of people sucked in. This thing can fake out. And if it fakes out, I'm not looking for a new low. All right, what I'm looking for is just a higher low. Maybe somewhere in the 45 area. Maybe it goes to 46, somewhere around there, followed by a bullish reversal. I would be interested in something like that because we have the breakout, right? If we get the pullback, then it's a much higher quality opportunity, in my opinion, if it can hold and prove itself there. The reward risk should be decent, right? And if we get the higher low, then probability would favor at least a higher high attempt, right? So I'd rather wait for a setup like that rather than trying to buy this breakout and getting caught in this mess where it is right now. Also, we cannot ignore, we still cannot, hold on. We cannot ignore this candle. It's still, we can't ignore it, right? It's sort of not really in play now that 47K has been taken out, but it's still there, okay? So if we get the fake out in the lower high, then, we have to see the next leg and if it can hold 44K. If 44K breaks, then we'll have a lower high and a lower low, and that will be a change in the structure, right? This bullish structure that's been in play since July or whatever, the party will be over there, right? Not necessarily a bear market, but it may test lower supports like 41K and 37K and all that kind of stuff, okay? So that's what we'll have to watch for. This can unfold over the next few weeks, all right? So we'll see how that goes. Now, let me jump over to the stock market real quick. So the stock market has been going for the higher low, right? We had the reversal yesterday. We had a pullback in recent days, right? We talked about this. And this market is still strong. I mean, this thing's up. NASDAQ's up 23 points today. We're at 15,536. And we have a higher low established, and it's trying to keep the game going. Okay, right? Stimulus market. Nothing has changed there. So like I said in the chat room yesterday or whatever, and the other day, I was saying if the market can produce the higher low, that's really where you should be looking for swing trades for stocks, right? And someone in here, I don't know who it was. It might have been, I don't know if it was you, Elizabeth. Someone had mentioned AMD. And look at AMD, right? Someone had mentioned it when it had the pin bar, okay? And I said on Monday, this is not a bad idea if the market can reverse, because this is a market stock. It's a reflection of the NASDAQ. So now you have an outside bar today. You had the pin bar the other day, outside bar today. This is a good looking move. This thing's up, just over $1. So that's a nice example of how you attempt to play a swing trade, timing along with the broader market. You can't look at these stocks in isolation. All right, unless of course it's like a biotech stock or something like AMC that does its own thing, then that's a different story. But when you're talking about semiconductors, or you're talking about banking stocks, or you're talking about energy stocks, or whatever, often they are correlated with the S&P or the NASDAQ. So you have to use the broader index to assist with the timing, right? So anyway, this is a nice move. This we can argue is in play. Also, MSTR was the other one that someone mentioned, right? And I see you mentioned it here too, Bart, right? MSTR. Since I'm talking about stocks, let me just take a look at that real quick on here. Hold on, MSTR. Okay, so now you mentioned here that it's in play, just not looking particularly good. Well, it's the same idea, right? MicroStrategy, it's the same idea. You have the failed low, right? The stock market is doing its job. You have a bullish pin bar today, right, off of a potential, not only is this a failed low, but this is a higher low relative to this low, right? So that swing trade is still, I would say it's in play and there's nothing wrong with it, right? As long as your stop is set in a good spot, right? Basically below this low, which is like just around 600, something like that, then I would anticipate at least a leg higher, at least an attempt at a leg higher, as long as the stock market can support you on this, right? Look at the S&P. Look at yesterday's candle on the S&P. That's quite a comeback on the S&P, and it's maintaining this trend. So, again, a lot of people, they start getting bearish in these situations, which makes sense, especially if you're consuming mainstream news and all the hype around you, because you have to understand, people react, right? Your favorite gurus and all these people on social platforms, they react to what is in front of them, right? And that is not a good strategy for the market. It works randomly like everything else. And people think when it works, like, oh, I'm onto something here. Oh, I know how the markets work. But you're actually reacting to old information. And when the markets turn, you're usually caught on the wrong side, right? This happens to everyone, and then they blame the market. Ah, the market sucks. Oh, these market makers. Oh, these bankers. The bankers are bad. Oh, these day traders. Oh, it's the robots, the algos, right? They always blame someone, but really it's the herd mentality that's getting them into trouble. It's their own reactionary nature. Anyway, my point is this. You have the higher low. So I would anticipate a higher high, or at least an attempt over the next week or something like that. I mean, look at this up here, right? That's where the S&P can attempt to go. And at this point, it looks like it's going to try, right? I mean, it was looking a little uglier earlier today, and the candle recovered. So good for if you're long stocks at the moment, right? Swing trades, you mentioned MSTR, right? Stocks like AMD, that type of thing. So you give them a try. As long as the market's behind you like this, okay, make sure you have a stop in place. If the market gives this back, because again, the chart looks good, but overnight, some news can come out, or during the European session, some news comes out, and next thing you know, you have a big engulfing bearish candle out of nowhere. The chart is not going to help you predict or anticipate such a move, right? That's why markets are highly random. It can come out of nowhere. So the only thing that can protect you is your stop, right? And that's for swing trades and day trades specifically. You must have a stop. Otherwise, a small loss turns into an enormous loss. It will happen. So that is that's the S&P and the NASDAQ. Now, let me jump over to gold real quick, because gold was getting a little bit of a hammer earlier. Look at that. What is going on with gold? So this looks ugly, right? This is why I was hesitant the other day to even get involved with gold, because again, we were near a resistance. Now we have a lower high established, right? The sell signal was this inside bar here, and now ugly candle. Okay, fine. Well, gold is not necessarily in a trend anyway, right? This is an example of a wave 4 consolidation. It's been in this configuration for over a year. Now, when I see gold do something like that, first thing I want to see is the dollar. Okay, look at the dollar today, the dollar index, right? Bullish engulfing, basically bullish engulfing candle, strong candle. And it's maintaining, as you can see, recent price action in the dollar since June has been bullish, right? Higher low, higher high. We now have a higher low established, right? After this one over here, we have another one, higher low. So if the dollar goes for the highs, that is a sign of rising rates. I've been talking about this the entire summer, and the dollar has been very slow and indecisive to prove it, but it's still hanging in there. It's still sticking around. Also, bond market, okay? The bond market should be the inverse to the dollar. And here we go. Strong bearish candle, right? So if this thing can maintain this structure, this bearish structure, we're looking at the rising rate environment. Maybe the smart money is anticipating some kind of move from the Fed before everyone else knows about it, because you know how the government works. and inside information. So here's the thing. If we look at the weekly chart, I mean, this weekly chart on the bonds still, I mean, this could be a higher low developing. It could be, but we still have a lower high in place. So it favors a push lower still, right? We have to see, right? There's really nothing, this is a mixed market, right? And you can make arguments on both sides. So it's hard to really take any longer term positions in this situation. And if you do, it's wise to be conservative right now, meaning if you're thinking longer term right now, because again, you're at a potential top of the market, you know, it's wise to take smaller bites. I mean, that's the S&P on a weekly, right? Does that look like a market bottom to you? I hope you say no. That is a market potential peak, right? So not a good place to be investing with a lot of long-term optimism. This is not even a pullback. We haven't even seen a healthy pullback. That's the problem with investing at these levels. And people say, oh, everything's okay, everything's fine. Oh, the Fed is going to do this. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Opinions, opinions, opinions. I don't care what the opinions are. That doesn't look like a market bottom to me. So when it comes to inventory and investing, it's usually a better idea to wait till everyone is banging out or getting margined out of their positions. And that's not in this situation at all right now. So that's why if you're going to do it, look, long term is really more about sizing than pricing. So sizing at such a level, it would make sense to just size smaller. Like, you know, so for example, if you're picking a good stock, let's say, you know, let's say you're talking about a good stock, Apple, right? Apple's a good stock. And let's say, you know, you've bought some Apple at some higher prices and it's pulling back. You shouldn't be plowing into Apple at these S&P highs, general highs. But if Apple pulls back to like, you know, 120, 110, 100, which is hard to believe, but that would be a dramatic pullback, right, on the stock market. That's the time to really put, you know, to put larger portions of money to work. But you want to keep some sort of target allocation in mind, meaning, hey, you got 10,000 to invest and you're going to invest that money over time at some average price. And if you can weight that investment, meaning, you know, that near the highs of the market, you're taking small bites, but as the market pushes lower and lower and lower and gets to a dramatic low, that's where you're taking larger bites. It's not easy to do. But the thing is, if you're doing if you're investing larger near dramatic lows, again, because everyone's going to be saying all these things that the market's going to zero and blah, blah, blah. Once you reach your target amount, meaning, okay, I got all 10,000 invested, that's it, you stop. Because if there's any more pain, you know, you're not going to keep throwing money at something that's, you know, going to be more painful and then either margin you out or scare you out, which is often what happens when you get too big too fast. Okay, anyway. That's my little inventory talk. So those are the main markets I wanted to talk about. Let's get into your questions now. And let me put Bitcoin back up on here. What's this? Bart Guy. Bart Guy sent me 100 coins. Man, I'm not even on TradingView. I'm trying to get back on there. But, you know, like, again, I got to figure out some kind of workaround because they don't like the software that I use. Anyway, thank you, Bart Guy, for the 100 coins. I really appreciate that very much. And I'm not even on there. Thank you. Okay, so let me get to your questions. All right, so Bart from Uruguay. All right, so I talked about MSTR real quick. I think it's okay as long as the stock market keeps its act together for now. All right, again, now I'm switching. I was just talking about inventory a second ago. Now I'm switching more short-term oriented. And this market over the next few days, maybe a week or two, can attest it can go for the high again. It's possible. Okay, but that doesn't mean it's just going to keep going and going and going, especially if the Fed changes their talk, you know, around October, November, right? FOMC meetings, they start changing their talk. We can see dramatic moves. That's often also around that time is when we will have our full volume back in the market, meaning, you know, the institutions are now in full swing and we can see more dramatic moves. Usually from October to April, that's usually the regular market time in terms of volume. And then from May to about October is usually when volume dries up, right? With the peak of that around August, and then it comes back right? As we go through October, as we come back into October, the volume comes back. That's very important when it comes to considering long moves, like broader moves. All right. Anyway, so let me get to your questions here. I talk too much. How am I doing with time? Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. All right. So Oleg from Ukraine, welcome. Elizabeth. Okay, so Elizabeth, what would be a good long-term entry for Cardano? Not necessarily inventory. All right, so let's talk about Cardano. ADA USDT. Now, Cardano is a follower, right? Occasionally gets its own thing going on. I can see why these things go nuts when they do. When you have these guys on YouTube or in these other places, and they're just over exaggerating these claims, and you have all these mindless people watching these videos and reacting to it, that is the herd mentality on steroids. That's why you get these moves. So you need to realize, for one, when that kind of move is unfolding, that's why I always tell people, stay away from it. Stay away from it. There'll be occasions where, yeah, I tell you to stay away, and it keeps going, of course. But most of the time, this is what happens, okay? So now it's pulling back. And okay, on this attempted Bitcoin run, this thing couldn't even get to this little minor resistance over here. It couldn't even do that, and you're getting the bearish candle. So to answer your question, Elizabeth, about levels, well, you have this level right here, $2.25. Again, if you're thinking long term, like sort of not really inventory, but you want to just start accumulating, you want to try to accumulate, that would be one attractive level. Now, if that level is cleared, again, you're talking about accumulating some, so you're not going to care if it gets cleared and you're still in it, right? You have to look at the next level if you want to buy more, and that would be around here. What is that? $2. Okay? Those are your near-term levels where I'd be anticipating at least some type of buying activity. So if you're looking to average in between those two levels, those would be good places to start. But like I said, a level alone is not enough. It pays to have some sort of confirmation, right? Wait till a green candle develops or something like that. But if you're, again, if it's just inventory, you know, or you're sort of in between inventory and a swing trade, just keep that in mind. And you should have some point where if it breaks $2, you should hold off and not continue to buy. And when you're dealing with these coins, it's probably not a good idea to use leverage either, all right? Because these things can move very far, a lot more than expected, and you get margined out. And, you know, especially like Forex type brokers, I don't know, in the altcoin space with these exchanges, I don't know what all of their margin rules are, because everyone sort of has like different rules here and there if you read the fine print. But I know on the Forex side of things, when you get margined out, where do you think that loss is going? That's going into the broker's pocket, right? That's why they love changing their margin requirements and margining you out, because that's easy money for them. Anyway, so thanks for the question. Those would be good prices. And if $2 breaks, again, you're looking at like $1. If it can, that would be a dramatic move, right? I'd be expecting for a move like that, you'd probably have some dramatic news in the market, like, you know, Cardano is going out of business or something. All right, I'm exaggerating. Mario, okay. Nice to meet you. Oh, from Argentina. Okay, cool. I would say mucho gusto, but do you guys, yeah, you speak Spanish, right? Mucho gusto. Okay, I should know that. All right, Qantas. Okay, let's take a Sol and ADA against USD. Okay, so Solana. Haven't heard from this one in a little while. Well, look, there we go. So what have I told people, right? When they go this one, and this one went vertical a number of times, because people have been asking about this one since the breakout, like since around here. And this thing went berserk, right? And it kept going and going and going. Look, when you're in those situations, you could try to play that game, but you really need to be on top of it, because it's going to turn at some point once the herd gets absorbed. And as you can see, we had this the other day, right? The pin bar. We talked about this, the bearish pin bar. And that's definitely what you're trying to avoid, especially if you just bought it. Now, we have the pullback. This is a nice pullback, very orderly, okay? You have a couple of inside bars now. So the first question you want to ask is, where's the support? Because the trend is clearly bullish. So you have levels, and we can even put one over here in this area because there is a hesitation. Those are your levels on this thing. So you're near one right now, which is around 150. The current candle is not supportive or attractive at all. I mean, it's bearish. Even though it's an inside bar, it's still it's a doji type or spinning top. Actually, it's a spinning top type candle. And in this situation, it's hard to step in front of this, right? So you have the area of interest. What you should be looking for is some type of reversal. Either a pin bar, bullish pin bar, another inside bar where the high is taken out, or this candle, right? The current candle, but the high needs to be taken out, 163.50. If the next candle could take that out, you will have a buy signal. But you have to be careful because sometimes it just takes it out and then just turns right around, right? So that's what you have to be careful of. Sometimes these candles go slightly higher. So you have the inside bars, okay. Also, I'd be expecting something from the leaders as well, like Ethereum or Bitcoin, because look, this one was doing its own thing for a little while, but these things do their own thing for a little while until they stop doing their own thing, and then they become a follower. They don't manage to keep doing their own thing, right? Again, it's a function of the herd. The herd just loses interest. And when the herd is berserk in these things, right, and there's a lot of talk and a lot of hype and blah, 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 you get these crazy moves. So if they can get that going again, which is possible, then, you know, maybe you get another move to the new high, you know, up in here, something like that. But there's nothing there yet. So you have the level, you just need some sort of confirmation, and then you can measure your risk. At this point would be measured from 142. So that means you need to justify that risk. If you're buying this thing at like what is this high over here again? 163, you're looking at around 20 points of risk. So you need to make at least 20 points on the next leg higher. And if you can't, then, you know, it's not really worthwhile. How do you know if you can make that or not? Well, you don't. So if you get into it and it starts to go, once you're up 20 points, if you can get that, you start taking money off the table. You take something off the table, and then you let it ride. If it gives you a hard time and can't make that new high, that's when you have to make adjustments, okay? So let's talk about, you wanted to talk about ADA, so I covered ADA. All right, so I got that. Savi from Brooklyn. What's going on, Savi? Scott, okay, great to be with you. Here in the UK, Scott from London. Oh, Scott, I didn't realize you were from London. Okay, all right, I'm going to have to practice my British accent. David from Spain, all right, mucho gusto. I made it right on time, right, for the rant. Yep, that's right. Okay, let me see what else we got here. Qantas, market TikTok. Oh, yeah, TikTok. Isaac made 100K this week using simple strategies you advocate with about a year of CRV. Yeah, I'm sure you're exaggerating. Okay, would you be able to look at SPCE? Yes, SPCE. Okay, let's take a look. So, and someone had asked about, someone in our chat room had asked about Robinhood, which just came to my mind as I look at this chart here. We could talk about Robinhood too in a moment. The chart, you know, the stock, not the traders. So here's the thing with this. You have the consolidation, right? That's not bad. It's a higher low consolidation relative to this structure here. Now, keep in mind, you know, this thing had tried to break out. It tried to do that previously and gave it back. So in this situation, you know, again, the structure hasn't changed. It's the structure still presents bearish momentum. But if it takes out this high over here, okay, this little range high of 27.32, that area, then that could be a sign of change. Now, of course, it needs to maintain it. Like, if it takes out 27.32 and it goes to like 27.40 and then it closes at 27.20 or 27, that's no good. So it needs to take the level out and hold and close above it. So that would be the more conservative thing to wait for. Let it break, close, let it pull back, right? Something like that would be a good start. Or if you want to take it now, like after something like this, you have a bullish pin bar that closed yesterday, took out that high today. So you can argue that there's a buy signal in it, the risk would be defined from 2307. All right, so basically 23 even. And if it can hold that, perhaps you get in at a decent price and you get that run, right? And the break that I just talked about, and you're in before all that, possible. But because you're still fighting a structure that hasn't really changed yet, it's also possible that it fakes out again, right? So you really have to respect the stop in this situation. Also, keep in mind a stock like this is news driven, right? It's very sensitive to news. It's not exactly a highly correlated market stock like an AMD, for example. All right, so just a few things to keep in mind. Look, it's not a bad thing when a stock does its own thing. You know, it's not a bad thing because the chart structures are usually a little bit more reliable because you don't have to worry about a broader market, you know, interfering and with what's going on here. All right, so anyway, let's take a look at Hood real quick because someone had mentioned it. And here's the thing, right? Hood's got a similar situation, not exactly, but you see the pullback, right? Nice higher low pullback, get this little double bottom situation, higher low. It took out the yesterday's high, or day before's high yesterday, took that out. And look, it's trying to close strong, right? Nice little move here today. This is a nice little double bottom. This is a reversal to go long. So your risk would be defined at 39.83. You could probably put that around 39.50, maybe even 39 even. Potential rewards, you're looking at maybe around this area here. What is this price here? Around 47, so 46. So if you're buying this thing around 42, you're risking, what was that low again? 39. So it's about 3 points of risk, something like that. Hopefully going from more than 3, like maybe 4 or possibly 5. I mean, that's what you're looking at reasonably for a first target on something like that. Okay, so the structure is there. Now, you know, I'm not a big fan of this stock because, you know, I mean, you have the herd comes from Robinhood, and they're probably, you know, they can be all over this as well. If they're all long, then this is probably not going to go very far, right? So it's something to keep in mind. Or if they all start piling in, you know, after the fact, which is also possible, you can get a nice spike on something like that as well. Just realize what you're dealing with, because as far as compared to how other stocks go, I mean, I would treat this as something like an AMC or like a GameStop, you know, because of that, right? Because the company fundamentally none of that really matters, right? We're talking about swing trades. So I'm not going to get caught up with that. Anyway, thanks for asking. All right. So Isaac, all right, so you made 100K. Are you serious, Isaac, or are you just joking? Let me see what else we got here. Scott, okay, would you also be great to hear your thoughts on the high risk in normal markets and how that might... Oh, all right, that's an interesting question, Scott. So the higher risk in normal markets and how it can affect Bitcoin. Well, here's the thing. So normal markets, a normal market would be the S&P, right? Higher risk in the S&P. So if the S&P gets hammered, which, you know, it hasn't done yet, but if the S&P makes the lower high and starts breaking supports and we see a bearish leg, a more dramatic bearish leg, which again, the S&P has a long way to go before it starts doing anything bearish. Okay, it really has a lot of supports it has to break. Anyway, what the effect that you can see is a lot of people will be getting margin calls and a lot of people will be taking losses in this market because everyone is too busy. They're buying these pullbacks, they're doing it with leverage, and they have no idea what they're doing. So when you get when those losses accumulate, what do? Well, if you have some Bitcoin, you're going to sell the Bitcoin, right, to recover some of that loss, right? So it starts to leak over into other markets. I mean, that's my theory on it anyway. Where you know you get that loss effect, and it trickles into something like Bitcoin, especially since you know, a lot of these people, a lot of these brokers allow you to trade all of these markets. If you think about it for a moment, right? Interactive Brokers just sent out an email the other day. They're saying now they're getting in on the Bitcoin game, and you can actually trade Bitcoin, not the futures. You can trade Bitcoin on the Interactive Brokers platform. So that's, part of the reason why I think they're starting to get linked together like that, because now everyone's got money invested on from these traditional platforms, TD Ameritrade, now Interactive Brokers, right? Robinhood, and those traditional brokers are giving you exposure to Bitcoin. So it makes sense that they start to get linked in that way. All right. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense. Good question. And that's just my opinion, by the way. So thanks for asking. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Sean, hey Sean, good to see you. Olga from South Africa. Can tell me more about AR, Matic, ETH. Do you think? Oh, here we go. Okay, good question. So AR, what's AR? Is that a coin? Let me see. Because I guess it is ARUSD. All right. So look, I'll take a look at the chart real quick, but you got a bunch of them there. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to get back to them because I have other questions. I want to try to make sure I answer other questions, but I'll get back to some of these other coins, right? Matic and ETH. Okay, no problem. Now you mentioned Golden Cross. I actually saw a video with that title on it. Okay, YouTube video with that title. Don't get caught up in those gimmicks. It's a gimmick. All right. Someone grasps, some guru somewhere mentions some moving average crossover, and then everyone, my God, it's a golden cross, right? And everyone makes a big deal out of it. Don't get caught up in that nonsense, right? It works occasionally, randomly, like everything else. So just get that out of your head. Let's look at structure and levels, because that's really what matter, right? So you have a double top over here. You have a support in this area right here. You have a support in that area right there. The general structure is bullish. I mean, there's nothing bearish about this structure. It's one big higher low and higher high, right? We have a double top, so it's possibly consolidating right now. Now, obviously this thing was doing its own thing for a little bit there, but it's starting to lose its doing its own thingness, if that's a term. And that, again, like I said, that doing its own thing dries up because whoever's hyping it, either people stop believing the hype or whatever. The hype just goes away, okay, for whatever reason. Just like a fashion trend, right? Everyone's wearing a certain hat, and then it's just, when everyone's wearing the hat, then the hat is no longer cool to wear, right? So then it's no longer cool, and now you look like, now your mom is wearing the hat. And that's usually when the trend is no longer in play, right? That kind of thing. So that's what you have to keep in mind here. As far as technical goes, you have this bearish inside bar. And if the low of this bar is taken out, the low of this current candle, you will have a sell signal. Now you're right in the middle of this range here. So it's highly random. Can't really do anything with that. I wouldn't touch this for a swing trade. How much is this thing? $53? Okay. So you want to wait for a support, right? If anything, that's looks like around 51-ish area. Probably a good idea to round it to about 50 and see if you can get a reversal there. That would be your range low. And I would be expecting, in that scenario, I would be expecting Bitcoin or Ethereum to give you some kind of similar look or confirmation. Ethereum should at least have like a buy signal developing in it or something. When you're going for something like that off of a support. Otherwise, these things just break those supports like they're not even there, especially when you have a double top right behind you like that. All right, so you mentioned Matic. Let's take a look at Matic. Someone had asked about this too in my previous stream. Looks like Bitcoin, right? Looks like the Bitcoin situation. Not only that, I warned you about, like with Bitcoin, I talked about that resistance area. This basically coincides with that Bitcoin congestion that I talked about. Not only that, do you see what's going on here with this thing? Do you see this? That's definitely not something you want to see if you're long, right? Bearish pin bar. It's still open, but still, that's not a good sign. So I'd be anticipating a pullback, and you should be looking for supports, right? And your support on this thing is right around, what, the $1.31 area? $1.30, something like that. That's really your higher probability location if it can give you a reversal there. Now, sometimes these reversals are tricky. I talk about giving you a reversal here, And that would be ideal. But look what happens sometimes when it touches these levels. Look at this, right? It touches and it goes. It reverses without giving you any kind of signal on the daily chart. So in those situations, those are tough trades, right? The only way you're going to spot something like this is on a smaller time frame, and you have to be watching it at the time. Putting a price, an order at that level is a very risky thing to do because it can clear the level, right? How do you know it's going to bounce there? What if people, oh, this trend line right here, right? And you put the price over here, you put your order here, and it clears right through, goes right through it. And you put your stop too tight, it stops you out and bounces anyway. So those are very tough trades to take. Those are more appropriate for day trades, right? Not swing trades. So anyway, that's your story with Matic. I would stay away from this thing at least until you're at a support. Okay, now Ethereum, I'm sure other people want to see Ethereum too. So let's get Ethereum up on here. My Ethereum chart. So Ethereum, is this my chart with my levels on it? No, I have one with levels on it. Let me pull that one up. I think it's this one over here. I thought I had a chart with levels on it. Maybe there's one. So look, Ethereum, it looks stronger than Bitcoin because Bitcoin has this much higher, this consolidation area is much higher on Bitcoin. So Ethereum is not dealing with that. But the thing is, Ethereum is not exactly a leader, okay? So if Bitcoin fails, it doesn't matter if Ethereum looks nice over here. It does not matter. It will fail too. And if it fails in this area, you're looking at a lower high, establishing a lower high. Now this doji could be the beginning of that, right? You can't overreact to this. So if the doji low is taken out tomorrow, you'll have a sell signal. Now, whether that sell signal follows through or not is going to be dependent on Bitcoin and the rest of the space. But if it follows through, you're looking at a test again of the 3,000 area, right? That would be that's your support on this thing. It's right around there. So I wouldn't go nuts with this. I certainly wouldn't be buying this. If you're long Ethereum on that breakout attempt, which I'm sure some people are, this is a warning, right? This is a place to make an adjustment. You can possibly, reduce your size, take a small loss, take a small profit if you have it, especially if the sell signal confirms, which again, it's not there yet. Now keep in mind, markets are random, and this doji may close strong. This doji may close, you may get another candle slightly below, it takes out the doji low and turns right around and takes out the high, right? That happens all the time. So that's why you have to monitor these things. What makes it so hard is when you pile on the complex layer of emotions, you may get scared by one thing, you may get scared by something else, you may second guess, you get out of the position, and then it goes the way you thought anyway. And then you have to get back in, right? So it's very possible to churn a lot in these situations. That's why I'd rather just, instead of getting caught up in all that nonsense, unless again you're a day trader, which is a different story, I'd rather just wait for a better level, right? A level that's more, that you can have more confidence in. For longs, this is not it, all right? So that's all I have to say about that. Now, the general structure, though, isn't bearish either. So I would be looking for a long at the next support, right? And maybe somewhere between 3,000 and where it is now. So maybe like around the 31s, something like that, 3150, 32 area might be a good place for a higher low, okay? Something to keep an eye for. So thanks for asking. All right, what else we got here? So Julio, can you please look at Hex? All right, Hex USD, HEX USDT. Let's take a look. What is this thing? All right, against Tether. How much is this? Is this one of those? Okay, it's 39 cents. All right, so look, nice general structure. All right, obviously this thing looks like a hype coin, definitely. I mean, look at this. So in a situation like this, it's going to be noisy because it's inexpensive. So this trend is with you. We want to find levels, right? You have a level right there, and you have a possible level right here where it's trying to hold. It's trying to hold that level. So that would be a higher low. If you take something like this, again, if it can't make that new high, then either you're going to consolidate for a while or you're going to break the support. So at this moment, you can measure your risk from 37.45, so around 37.5 cents. This thing is at 39, basically 39.5, slightly more than that, right? So you're looking at 2 cents of risk, basically, and you need this thing to push these highs, which is what, 53 cents, right? To start justifying your risk. I mean, if you're buying this thing, that would more than justify your risk if it can get up there. Again, you need to do better than 2 cents. Now, keep in mind, these things can be very noisy. I also would not expect this coin to be a leader, which means, yeah, it does its own thing for a little while, and then once the hype runs out, Bitcoin, basically becomes the leader again. So you have to watch out. If Bitcoin fails, this thing may start breaking those supports. So that's the way you have to play this. There are some of these plays you can play aggressively if you're prepared for, the amount of attention and adjustment that's required. If you're one of those types that just go into hope mode because it's easier, well, hope is not a strategy, and you will lose over time. There's no question you will lose. That's why most people don't make any money in this game. Any money they make temporarily, they give it right back. Why? Because they hope. So that's what you have to do with something like this, right? That's why I would not call this as a swing trade, because it requires too much attention. All right, so thanks for asking about that. But generally, it's a nice looking chart, just too much trouble. All right, that's Hex. Hey, Shayshank, good to see you. All right, so I'm just going through the chat here. David, okay, erase that. Oh, David, okay. Sol, EUR, and .EUR. Okay, so Solana against Euro, it's going to be the same as as basically USDT, because I mean Euro is a stable currency, right? So it's the same idea, same situation. So everything that I said about Solana earlier would apply to this. All right, you're looking for a reversal in this area for a new long, and you can measure your risk at this point from this low here, which is at 135.45 euros, 135.45 euro. All right, now so dot against the euro. Now dot broke out, right? Polkadot broke out, but as you can see, why I warn people about these breakouts right now. This is not good. If you're long, if you bought the breakout and it's giving you this, that's a warning, okay? You have an inside bar. It took out the low of the inside bar today. That's a sell signal after a breakout. You should not see a sell signal after a breakout. So this calls for adjustment. Now, the trend is not bearish. The trend is clearly bullish, higher lows and higher highs. So what do you do here? Well, if you're long from the peak, well, it's a good idea to adjust, either exit, take a small loss, take a small profit, whatever you got, whatever, and cut that risk, because this thing can pull back to this support over here, which is 23.60, around there. That's where your actual your support is based on this structure. That's where your support is. Now, it may find support sooner than that and produce a higher low, possibly in this area right here, which is what price is this? That is 26.93. Yeah, so basically 27 area, right? Those would be the areas to look. Now this thing's at 29.85, so that's not too far away, but you can't step in front of it. You need to wait for some sort of confirmation. That would be an aggressive trade if it gave you the reversal there. It would be more attractive if it can pull into this area here, which is the $25 area, right? That would be much more attractive if it could do something like that and give you the reversal there. So that's what I'd look for on something like this. I mean, DOT has been generally strong, so you have that going for you. Keep in mind, if Bitcoin gets hammered for whatever reason, okay, and Bitcoin takes out this support at 44K, DOT will probably be at one of those supports and likely break the support. So just because an altcoin goes to a support is not enough. I mean, you need to check Bitcoin and make sure that it's holding as well, or giving you some kind of reason to buy, right? A green candle, something, not a big bearish candle. So yeah, so that's what I have to say about that. Thanks for asking. Schwartz from Monaco. You're in Monaco? Man, you were in Turkey the other day. Now you're in Monaco? Man, that's I hear nice things about Monaco. So Schwartz, my Romanian, he's my Romanian representative. He's all over the world. He's like James Bond. I'm gonna call you James. I'm gonna call you Schwartz Bond because you're one of the international man of mystery. All right. Good to see you, Schwartz. Okay, Elijah's greeting from Kaunas, Lithuania. I guess that's LT's Lithuania. Cool. Some analysis about, okay, LMT. Thank you. Okay, no problem. Let's take a look. LMT. Ooh, look at that. All right, so let's first zoom out a bit here and see what's going on the bigger picture, right? You notice when I see stocks like that, the first thing I want to see is where are we in terms of price history. So this recent structure, right, is bearish, lower highs and lower lows. It's pulled back into a pretty interesting area. That is an old resistance, and it now should act as a new support. So you have an area of interest for a long, but that's not enough to get long. So what you have to do right now is you need to wait for two things. You need stability to come back because you can't just step in front of this. There's nothing that says that this bearish structure that we've been seeing for a number of months is just going to change just because it touches a support, right? That's not enough. So you have a attractive area. What you want to see now is stability develop. What does that look like? Well, it starts off with a push, right? You get a push off the support followed by a double bottom followed by a higher low. Something like that. That would be your first sign. Now, if you want to be more conservative, right? So at this moment, there's nothing to do. The aggressive thing would be to go for the higher low or the double bottom if it can give you that. But that's aggressive because the structure hasn't changed yet. What is more conservative is if it gives you the higher low or double bottom and then rallies again and takes out a resistance. That would be a sign that the bearish structure is changing, okay? And most likely the next leg to develop would be a bullish structure after all that takes place. Keep in mind, all that price action that I just described can take a month to unfold. So that's what I'd be watching for on something like this. With a weak close like this, yeah, I wouldn't go near it right now. Definitely a good one for the radar. So thank you for asking about LMT. Andre, how are things in NYC? Okay, I mean, I'm in North Jersey. I can see NYC, but I'm not in it. All right, so how are things? Okay, can you look at AVAX? Sure. Please, thank you from... it's okay, let's take a look. Andre, so AVAX USD. Oh, yeah, look at that. Isn't this like an NFT? Is this an NFT related coin? I remember this one mentioned a while back. All right, so yeah, doing its own thing, all right. Let's take a look at the general trend bullish, right? That's pretty clear. Levels are next. Well, you have a support right there, and you have a support right here, a nice higher low support, and now it's off to a new high, right? I don't see, was it higher than that? Look at this. Just going back, you have a level there. That was a previous high, dating all the way back to like whatever, months and months ago. So here's the thing. Right now, you can't touch it because you're buying into a potential failed high. You're going to have a lot of herd mentality people that top tick this thing, right? Not a good idea. So what you want to wait for is a support. This support, this line that I just put up here, which was an old resistance, we can't really count that as a support yet. You know why? It's still too close. I mean, look at this. There was a reaction just a few days back, there was a reaction, a bearish reaction off that area. You can still get that bearish reaction again. So I wouldn't touch that as a support. I would wait for this level here, if anything, 57.22. That's your support for a possible long if you're interested in something like this. Of course, it's going to have to confirm that and give you some kind of reversal in that area. If that area is cleared, then you're looking at a support somewhere inside of here, right? This area right here. Why in the middle? Why not like an obvious level? Well, because in the middle, you have a bunch of things going on. You have this old support here, right, which in this case that would be a failed low if price is trying to break that. You have this congestion over here. So you have a few things going on. This would be a great area for a long if it can give you the reversal here, right? That would be a failed low, suck in a lot of people. If people short this thing, it would suck in a lot of shorts, and you know, you can get a nice leg higher off of something like that. And you're right back inside the consolidation, right? So I like that. I like that at those levels if it can give you that opportunity. You know, as you can see, just going back a little bit here, after it made this new high back here, it didn't just keep going as you see now, right? We can see this after the fact. Look at all of this randomness or noise or whatever you want to call that, erratic price action. There's opportunities in there, at least on the long side. Okay, this long may have not gone very far, but eventually one went somewhere, right, off of this pin bar. Of course, we can see that after the fact, but that's the type of action you're looking for. This structure right here, this consolidation, is a broad higher low and within a bullish trend, and it gave you a failed low right here. This coincides, by the way, this coincides, I think, with that Bitcoin, that large candle on Bitcoin that looks similar. I don't know if that's the same date. It might be, but you know, those failed low situations are great opportunities if it can go for you, if it goes your way. All right, but in these situations, again, you must use stops because there's no guarantee that that will produce the same outcome again, and the only protection we have is that stop. Okay, so thank you for asking about AVAX. Definitely, if anything, good one for the radar. Oh, so Isaac, you really made $100,000? Nice, man. I should have my donation thing up here. Maybe Isaac would give me, $10,000 tip. Okay, probably not 10,000, 5,000. $5,000 tip is okay. I can probably buy some lunch with that. Anyway, no, that's cool, Isaac. Well, that's great. I'm glad you were able to make some money. From the information that I'm glad I'm able to help. Well, let's just put it that way. All right. So let me see. I'm just going through the chat here. All right. So from Netherlands. Okay, I noticed that you are not using. Okay, RSA. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Well, for those that have been following me for a while, I don't use any of those oscillators like RSI, blah blah blah. Here's why. They're backward looking. Now I know all the fake gurus, they use them. I've seen dozens and dozens of free strategies on YouTube. They're free. You can Google them. Okay, and they show these the RSI, when it crosses the 50, it's a long, right? And all this other nonsense. Look, these oscillators are the purpose of them is to help smooth the price over time. So they were made, first of all, you have to understand all of these things were developed in like the 1970s, right? In the 1970s, they didn't have access to intraday. There was no intraday charts on a computer back then. They had to chart like, on a piece of paper, basically, right? On graph paper. So they were made for larger time frames originally. Now, they're smoothing the price, which is good for a trend. But what happens when the market stops with the trend? What if it goes into a temporary consolidation? Your oscillators are going to get all out of order. They're going to plant the seeds of opinion or bias in your head, and they're going to confuse you, right? Moving averages, same thing. So that's why I rely on price structure and price action and candlesticks, because like a trend line, for example, will give you much more value than any oscillator. You know why? Because it's forward looking. A trend line projects into the future. It doesn't make me look backward. It's not processing some information end periods ago. It's looking ahead, right? And now trend lines aren't perfect either. They break and this and that, whatever, but at least it's telling me what the momentum and what the crowd is likely to do in the future, not behind me. All right, so I hope that answers your question. That's why I don't use them. They have a place, like when it comes to day trading and stuff like that, they can play a role because a lot of times with day trading, finding an intraday trend is really how you can make money. It's very hard to make any money day trading to begin with, especially if you're just trying to take small bites out of the market and this and that. So an oscillator can help you identify a trend or identify a potential reversal and all that kind of stuff. But again, even on that time frame, you have to really understand what you're doing, and you have to realize that the price action itself carries more weight than the oscillator. All right, so I hope that answers your question. Very long answer there. From Germany, Guy, welcome. From Germany, CL, okay, crude oil futures. All right, we got a futures guy here. So let's take a look at CL. Take a look at CL1. So oil has been strange. I check out oil every once in a while, you know, on my charts, because oil can have an effect on the S&P, since a large portion, a large component of the S&P are energy stocks, right? So what drives energy stocks? Oil. So oil has been strong. Look at this. What's going on in oil? So oil has the higher low over here, right? It's on its highs. Now the thing is, we have these resistance levels ahead of you on oil. And here's the thing. So you can't chase this now. If you're looking to swing trade oil, this is not the place to do it. You know, if you're day trading, then obviously you're looking for longs intraday, whatever, right? Bullish reversals and longs and stuff. But I would not do anything with this. This could turn into a short, or, you know, a very aggressive short. But the more conservative thing to do would be just to wait for a pullback. Okay, and that pullback, the level would be 70, basically 70 and a half on the crude oil contract. 70 and a half area. If you can get the reversal off of that, that would be, you know, a good place to look for a long. Now, here's the thing, the strange thing with oil, because obviously oil is also very event driven. The dollar is on its highs today, right? Dollar on its high. Oil should be weak today. That doesn't exactly look weak to me. I mean, it's minus 2 cents or whatever, but that's nothing, right, for oil. So what is going on with oil, with dollar going higher? So you have to, you know, just keep that in mind too. If the dollar persists and breaks out, I would expect pressure, bearish pressure on this thing, especially since you're fooling around in a resistance area. So that's why, you know, I would just wait for the pullback and see if you can get something off the pullback. Shorting this is also very aggressive because, like I said, we can look at these historical resistances, but it doesn't mean they're going to hold. A lot of times it's the momentum. The momentum is what carries all the weight, and this momentum is bullish right now, right? So that's what I have to say about oil. So really nothing to do here. Just wait it out, you know, at least for a swing trade, and see if you can get that pullback and a reversal in that area. So thanks for asking about oil. Hey, Travel, good to see you. All right, Israel, updates on gold. Okay, so I went over gold earlier. If you just go back in the stream, gold is one of the main markets that I follow, right? Did I cover gold? Maybe I forgot. No, I think I covered it. Yeah, let me just look at the chart real quick. Sometimes I forget. Yeah, I talked about this, haven't I? You know, or maybe I jumped over to the dollar and all that stuff. Well, gold specifically, you know, again, I didn't like gold in this area because of this resistance, right? And that's why I was staying away from it. So gold has this bearish candle right now, bearish momentum after a lower high. I wouldn't classify this as a trend on this time frame. It's just a consolidation. It's still inside of wave 4. So in these situations, right, and this is what I'm expecting Bitcoin to do a similar thing, because I also believe Bitcoin is in a wave 4. Wave 4s are full of fake outs and all that kind of stuff, right? And erratic price movement. So I would be looking for supports on gold. Right now, it's too early to buy. So here's your first support, this area right here. It's close. What is this? 1750 is the low back here, right? 1750 area, and you're fooling around with it right now. So this thing's at 1754. So attractive location, but that candle, we have to respect that momentum. So I want to see, before I do anything with that, I'm not going to step in front of that. I want to see price test maybe a little bit lower. I want to see a failed low. I want to see a little double bottom. I want to see something. I'm not going to buy gold. If gold just gives me like a little bullish candle like right there, I'm probably not going to be interested in that. because again, the size of this bearish momentum, right? If I'm going to take a bullish candle without any stability, then I want to see that at an extreme low, right? Something like that. If I were to take something like that, but even then, that would be very aggressive, right? A very aggressive thing to do. What is likely to occur in this situation is you get the two little candles, right? The two little momentum continuation candles. They look like this, right? Like that. Bitcoin produced something like that recently. And then the low of the second one gets taken out and the thing gets hammered. So I would watch out for something like that, and I wouldn't be in a hurry to get into gold. But it's definitely a level to be monitoring. Now again, dollar going higher, right? So if dollar breaks out and dollar continues higher, gold is going to have problems. It's just something to keep in mind, right? That's why like that oil situation is kind of tough too, and strange that it's on its highs with the dollar strengthening. Okay, so let me see what else we got here. All right, so Shashank, EOS, USD. Look at that pullback. All right, so I remember this one. I remember a lot of talk about this one. Let's zoom out a bit here and let's see what's going on. So, all right, first thing is it looks similar to Bitcoin as far as the recent rally, right? The recent leg higher, and it's inside of this consolidation. You have this support here, but just like Bitcoin, it's got this range behind it. Okay, Bitcoin looks just like this as far as this mess right here, and that is likely to act as a resistance. In fact, it may turn into a head and shoulders, right? I mean, you have the head in place, you have one shoulder. This other side right now where it is may turn into a right shoulder, and we may see same type of price action out of Bitcoin. So I wouldn't touch this thing long. You have a potential lower high with this red candle, right? So that could be the lower high establishing. It could be. If the red candle low is taken out, you will have a sell signal. So if there's any interest in this thing, it should be, you know, at these lows right around this area here, which is around 461, maybe 4.5. You want to give it a little room. But I would expect a similar move out of Bitcoin. Bitcoin should be doing something similar. If Bitcoin is getting hammered and this thing is just hesitating at a support, I would not buy it. Okay, again, use Bitcoin as your guide. All right, so thank you for asking about EOS. I'm sure we're going to see many coins in a similar situation. Okay, wow, Isaac, man. Yeah, Isaac, send me a $5,000 tip. And that would be nice. Okay, I'm joking. All right, Stephen. Okay, no problem. Workhorse. No, Stephen, no one has asked about Workhorse. So let's take a look. Workhorse. I haven't heard from this one in a while. You know, we used to mess around with this one back when it was like, you know, flavor of the week. But, all right, so this is interesting that you bring this up here. Look at the recent price action. Now, going back a few months, right, we had this craziness. Let's zoom out a bit. And let's see what's going on here, right, on the bigger picture. What's gone on recently? I remember they had some negative news. I remember this, right? The post office wasn't going to use their trucks or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. Since then, this thing has been pretty much troublesome, right? All right, fine. The whole space is kind of out of favor. So with that being said, let's look at the technical structure. This situation right now, you have a higher low developing relative to this back here, right? Now, I mean, that's really nothing, that's not very impressive, but it's something. It could be a change. So you have, with that potential higher low developing, right, you have a double bottom that is trying to establish itself now. So I would classify this as an aggressive swing trade because you're going against the recent momentum, which is basically lower highs and lower lows, in something that kind of lost its, you know, interest, right? It's not like flavor of the week anymore. So you have to keep that in mind. But as far as the higher low area, it's definitely an area of interest. Possible double bottom. Now what you want to see for the long You can wait for the today's high to be taken out tomorrow, which is what? What's today's high? 837. So you want to see this thing push 850, okay? Something like that. And your stop would be around $8. So you're looking at 50 cents, which means you need to make 50 cents at minimum to justify that risk. And the high of this little push here is $10, right? So I think that's within reason, right? You can go for like $1, maybe $1.50. That would be 3 to 1 if you can get that out of it. If it makes that push, if the high or low, if basically the double bottom sticks. Now some people may say, what double bottom? It's a lower low, but it's barely a lower low. In fact, I would call this a failed low, right? Because it broke slightly lower, but it's not, this is not a dramatic break, and it's giving you some green right now. So it's, like I said, it's counter the structure. Like, I guess you can call this counter trend, and that would be your reward risk. That's the aggressive thing to do. The more conservative thing to do is to wait until it takes out a resistance, and right now that's your $10 area. So I wouldn't expect this thing to go up there in one candle, right? It may pop up a bit, pull back, work its way higher. Perhaps you can wait for the next higher low. That would be slightly more conservative than buying this thing right now. All right, now keep in mind, with the stock market trying to turn higher, this is not a highly correlated stock. So if the S&P does something amazing over the next couple of weeks or whatever, this thing is still likely to do its own thing, all right? Which it's probably, in order for this thing to be in play again, you're going to need like a good report out of the company or something to attract the herd to start piling into this thing. Because when this thing pops up on a day trader radar, you know how it is. They all pile into it, and that's when you get those nutty moves. So this may be an early time to start getting involved, or keep it on your radar and wait until it starts changing its structure. All right. So thank you for asking. Definitely has some characteristics of the setup that we like. All right, Alex, what do you think will happen if it turns out Tether invested heavily into Evergrande? Evergrande? Okay, I'm not familiar with Evergrande, but I had mentioned the Tether thing the other day, as far as the uncertainty and the strange things that, you can find, if you just Google that whole Tether situation, there are tons of videos and stuff like that of people explaining some what appears to be, factual information about how they're hiding things and this and that. And my point was, if that Tether stuff is true, right, and that Tether is not backed like they say and all that other stuff, well, then I think what it can do is hurt the confidence of the entire space, because that means what, $60 billion is fake, right? And it's just vanish. It'll just vanish. So it will certainly have I think it will have a negative effect. But now how dramatic that effect will be, there's no way to know, right? So just because this news comes out, look, Mt. Gox many years ago, right? Yeah, Bitcoin felt the pain, whatever, it was painful. But look, Bitcoin is at 64, went to 64K eventually, years after that, right? So if it's like another Mt. Gox situation, yeah, there will probably be some type of irrational overreaction, and it will probably affect the entire space and, knock the wind out of the space and hurt confidence for the future. Because people are like, oh, remember Bitfinex, they printed all that fake Tether and blah, blah, blah. And anyone can print fake money and blah, 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 right? So until those investors are replaced, or those participants are replaced with new participants who don't remember that, right? That's how markets are able to keep going, is the people that lose all their money are replaced with people that are just as mindless, but they haven't experienced that negative, they haven't had that negative experience yet. So they're full of hope and their emotions just run wild, and that's how it works, right? Anyway. So yeah, good question about that. Like I would say, like I said this the other day, do your homework. Just do your homework on this stuff, and don't be fully exposed. Don't be 100% exposed to like Bitcoin. It's a highly speculative instrument. Okay, so that's all I say. That Tether situation may never turn into anything, because it's in everyone's best interest for it not to turn into anything bad, because a lot of people will lose a lot of money, right? So maybe that's why they just kind of let it go. Just something to keep in mind. But if it starts to get out of hand, you just need to be prepared. So I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to create some kind of fear or have people, closing out all their positions because of this fake Tether idea. The market may be sustained for the next, year or two or something. These things, even though all these red flags may be in our face, the market can shrug them off for as long as it wants to, right? And there's no reason to miss all those opportunities. Just to understand that Tether situation is another risk that you must not lose sight of. That's all I'm saying, okay? And so people that have like 100% invested in like Bitcoin, that's just unwise. If you have money at Bitfinex, and all your money is there, that's probably not a good idea either. It's probably wise to move that money and have it, over different exchanges in case something goes wrong, like that. Because if something goes wrong, keep something in mind. If something goes wrong and everyone's trying to get out at the same time, you will not be able to log into your account to do anything anyway. Okay, people don't realize that. All right, anyway. So I hope that answers your question about that. Let me see what else we got here. All right. Hex has very little volume. You'll have a hard time getting out. Okay, that's a good point, Isaac. Good point. Michelle. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Good entry level for Luna. And Travel the other day told me that Luna means moon in Italian. And I was embarrassed because I didn't know that. And I should know that. Anyway, so let's talk about Luna. Yes, this is a nice looking chart, right? The higher lows, the higher highs. You do have this old resistance, which is now a new support. Okay, you have all that going for you, right? But keep in mind, right? Bitcoin is in the process of potentially faking out. And look, you have this pin bar developing right here, right? So actually it's not a pin bar, I'm sorry. I couldn't see the lower part of the candle. This is a spinning top type of situation, right, developing. But I can't help but notice this long tail. Even though it's not a pin bar, I just can't help but notice that. That's usually a sign that people are getting out, right? Anyway, so with Bitcoin doing what it's doing, I know this thing can do its own thing, but they don't always do their own thing, right? And if Bitcoin gets hammered for whatever reason, this can easily establish itself as a lower high. So I don't like it for that reason. And if it takes out today's low, which is $35, takes it low, that would be a new sell signal. So I would hold off. You do have an interesting area, but I would hold off for one until Bitcoin stabilizes or something like that, or Ethereum. And for two, see what kind of price action you can get if it can get into this level, which is around 34.90s, 35. If it breaks that, you're looking at this area right here, just below it. This area right here, which is what is that? 31.45, so 31.50. Those would be the two areas to concentrate on. But again, keep in mind the level alone is not enough. You have to look at that price action, and you also it's helpful to look at something like Bitcoin and Ethereum and to see that they're behind you, right? To see that they're doing something bullish, right? In the case of a long, not what they're doing right now, right? So that's how I would treat something like this. But generally, if this thing can keep its trend going, a new high is within reason, right? $44, that's within reason. Just it needs to give you a better buy signal, okay? If you take this, it's aggressive, and you're going to have to define your risk from this area here, which is basically 35.25, around 35, right? And this thing right now is at 37.5. So if you take this right now, you're looking at least $2, $2.50 of risk, and it's likely to get stopped out, okay, at that point, because the structure is not exactly, or the candle's not exactly in your favor, okay? So thanks for asking about Luna. Andre, I am not in AVAX yet, but okay, we'll be on the lookout for a correction. Okay, yeah, that's usually the best thing too, especially with these garbage coins. They're all just they're so hyped that you're better off waiting until the hot air is knocked out of them, and then getting in at a better price. I also ordered. Oh, I appreciate that, Andre. I appreciate that. Are you the guy from Siberia? I know. I think there's or is it Anton from Siberia? I appreciate that though. Yeah, I think you'll like it. Again, you mentioned the ebook. The ebook is a collection of the techniques that I use that you see here. I mean, I'm doing them, except I'm not going into like wave counts, and I'm not doing Fibonacci stuff on here. But I talk about the elements that I find to provide the most value on your chart. Okay, I've done everything. I've tried everything. I've used oscillators. I've done all that stuff. Okay, and over the years, I've recognized what does not work. I am an expert at what does not work. Okay, I know everything that doesn't work, and I can tell you why it doesn't work. And that's why I put together that ebook of a collection of a few things that can give you valuable information that can allow you to make better decisions based on what the market is doing and what the market is saying, not people, right? That's the whole point of that ebook, and I hope you find it helpful. So thank you for buying it. Okay, let me see what else we got here. How much does a coin like Chainlink take off? Like, does it go? Okay, Mike. So Chainlink, right? So keep in mind. So Chainlink, again, it's just another coin, right? Another altcoin doing its altcoin thing, right? Following along with all the other hype and all the other nonsense. You have to understand what drives these things. Hype and nonsense and TikTok traders. That is what drives these things. I saw some videos of like what goes on, because I can't watch the videos myself. I just don't have the patience. But I saw someone commenting on these videos, and it's unbelievable what these people are saying. And it's more unbelievable that someone actually believes them and follows them. Okay? Anyway, so with that being said, you want to look at these things, Mike, with the altcoins, you want to look at them from a technical perspective, but always respect the fact that Bitcoin is the leader, right? Which means occasionally these coins will do their own thing, but if Bitcoin cannot follow through, like it's doing right now, it's not following through, these things are going to realize and they're going to peter out. You know, they're going to stop. They're going to turn right around like is going on right now. You know, Bitcoin the other day was pushing that 47K. Everyone's getting excited, right? Now Bitcoin's giving it back. Look at this, bearish outside candle. So you have to use Bitcoin as your guide. And because I didn't like that Bitcoin resistance situation, that's going to affect all of these coins. If that resistance sticks on Bitcoin, right, which I was talking about, these things are going to feel the same pain. So as far as technicals go, you have the potential lower high developing, and your support hasn't changed. Your support is still here at 2480, or basically 25. So if it can give you a test of 25 again and give you some kind of reversal, if you're going to take risk on this thing, that would be a better place to do it. But again, you need Bitcoin to cooperate, right? You will now have a lower high established, and it's possible, you know, when you have a lower high, and again, same goes for Bitcoin. When you have a lower high, often what follows is a lower low. So it's very possible that this support that everyone keeps buying into is going to break. And that goes for all the coins that I covered, right? You have to watch out for that. Now, it doesn't guarantee that it will break, but if Bitcoin has a more exaggerated move lower and breaks 44K, what do you think is going to happen at all these supports? So don't just step in front of it. Wait for some further confirmation. Wait for a candle to at least tell you that you're not the only one buying, okay? Usually that's a green candle at a support level. Even if it's a large candle, if you want to take that risk, you know, that part is up to you. So thank you for the question. Adrian, hey, good to see you, Adrian. Okay, Stephen, maybe also look at COMB, okay? COMB, USDT. Let's take a look. Oh, this looks like the other coin that we just looked at earlier today. What was that other one that someone mentioned? I can't even remember the name now. But you have the double top. First thing I see, double top. Look at this also. Look at this. Look at this long tail. Okay? When you see a long tail like that, long tail, even though the price tried to recover on the next candle, when you see the long tail, someone is getting out. Okay? Or a lot of people are getting out. They're dumping their coins on someone. So whenever I see the long tail, first of all, you know, that's a problem right there. Now, since that long tail, if you notice, This thing has not made a new high. So you have the double top in play. It's about to take out the previous candle low, which will generate a sell signal. Now, the general structure, let's look back and just see what's going on here. Oh, this thing, I could see this thing was wild, you know, back here. Well, I guess this must be a hype coin. This has to be hype because that's what hype looks like on a chart. All right, so in this situation, yeah, I would wait, first of all, if anything, wait for a support. Your first support on this thing is over here. Third, was at 0035. So it's like a fraction of a penny. 0035, all right? That's your support. Now, you're coming off of a double top. So if it can't find support before that and Bitcoin breaks, this thing will probably break, especially since it's probably full of hype. So in these situations, you're better off waiting for a good price and then decide if you want to take that risk. But with these things, they're so cheap anyway. You know, this is like a penny stock. What are you going to do with this? Like technically, you might as well use 0 as your stop, and just don't put a lot of money into it, right? Because that's what you're playing with. You're playing with like a worthless penny stock here. All right. So thank you for asking about that. Like when they get that cheap, technical analysis is really not very. It loses its value because there's too much noise in these things, right? There's just too much noise. So thanks for asking. Farhat, what are your thoughts on H-bar? Okay, H-bar. Someone asked about H. I confused that with H-bar and Hex. I always confuse them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the letter H. All right, so here's what you got here, right? Recent rally, again, hype, 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 and pin bars, 2 of them. Well, yeah, look at these candles. I mean, if you didn't learn on the first one, if someone top ticket in the first one and people bought into it again, seriously, that's not a good sign. That's actually called a tweezer top if this thing closes like this. Now, this candle closes, takes out the low, that is a sell signal. So no reason to buy this thing now. Wait for supports if you're going to get involved. Again, these things go on hype. Maybe you're part of the chat room that has the hype, you know, and if that's the case, then you'll at least, you know, when they start hyping, you should have some advance notice, right? And that's what's going to help you get into the position early. And once the hype starts to take hold and they start making their videos or whatever, and everyone starts reacting to it like they do, then, you know, you ride this thing and try to get out for a profit, right? Until this thing turns. But when you see this, party's over, especially if you just bought it. Now, your first support on this thing is right here at 34 cents, right? That area, 34, 35 cents, that's your first support. Unless it could establish a support somewhere in between, but there's no way to know, right? So the historical support, old resistance is around 35 cents. Yeah, right around there. So that would be the place to be looking for a new long, if it can get there, and it can confirm, okay? Because the level alone is not enough. So thanks for asking. Certainly a good one for the radar, especially if you're into these aggressive coins. I'm going to call these aggressive coins. So that's H-bar. And EOS I went over earlier, so hopefully you saw that part on EOS. Alex, only bigger. You should check the chart at least, but it could be huge and affecting the whole world. Oh, yeah? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Is that a stock or something? All right, so I went over H-bar. Alex, from what I understand, a lot of people knew that things were bad. Yes. So Alex, you bring up a very good point about that time. I was actively in the markets at that time. So I remember very clearly what was going on, okay? And I even talked about it in my previous stream. There's a great movie about that whole situation. It's called The Big Short, and it demonstrates very well the mentality, the herd mentality at the time. People were just blindly, they didn't care about the bad loans. It was widely known that there were bad loans everywhere. Widely known. No one cared. Anyone that said anything about it, like there was a guy that I used to follow, he had a blog, And he used to talk about these bad loans and blah, 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 and detail them and this and that. And the guy was ignored and made fun of and ridiculed and harassed and all that stuff for 2 years. Okay, while he was saying this stuff, and they were saying he doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, 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 blah. Well, eventually, the bad loans, as you know, eventually came to the surface, right? And then, what was it, Lehman Brothers or whatever went out of business. And that's what started the whole situation. That's what got everyone's attention, right? So, yes, what you're saying, this Tether situation can persist for years before it turns into something that catches everyone's attention. Because it's known, and it seems pretty clear if you look at just some of the arguments presented and how they're hiding things, it seems pretty clear that Tether is not backed by anything, right? It just seems like they're just printing fake Tethers. That's what it seems like. So I don't know if that's true, but if it's true, right, everyone knows about this. Well, at some point, some sort of catalyst will unfold. Like someone will go out of business, right? Bitfinex out of business because they can't. Everyone goes to withdraw their funds at the same time, and there's no money, right? And everyone realized Bitfinex has no money, and then who else doesn't have no money? And then it turns out Binance has no money, right? I'm exaggerating, but that's how it can unfold, something like that. So that's why it's very important to just understand that that's one of the risks that you take when you're dealing with these things. And something very exaggerated, like something that unfolds like that, because again, it can persist for years before something like that occurs, right? Like Bitfinex had a few years ago, they had a problem with a bank that they had all their money in, deposited, the money got seized, so they had no money. So what did they do? They printed money somehow. They filled that hole of, you know, that money that vanished. They somehow fixed it, right? I don't know. It sounds like they printed that money and filled it with Tether. Anyway, again, this is all, you know, information I got from a video. I don't know how true that is or not true. But my point is, I remember when there was a lot of talk of that, and they were saying, oh, Tether is fake and blah, blah, blah back then. And then somehow they ironed it out and everyone was happy, right? So that's all I'm saying about that. Red flags can persist for a long time until they realize that something that the market didn't realize or whatever it comes to be, and then everyone then reacts to it, right? At the same time. Okay. So, let me see if you can. Okay, not Siberia. Although my dog is. Oh, Andre. So I know there's someone else from Siberia. Okay. Oh, from Romania. Another from Romania. I got Schwartz Bond from Romania because he's an international man of mystery. I got a lot of Romanians. Very popular in Romania. All right. It's the biggest. Oh, okay, Alex. That's good to know. I wasn't familiar with that. You know, I don't pay attention to a lot of things. I just focus on price, you know, pretty much. But it's not a bad thing, right, to be aware of some of those things. Okay, it's no problem. If you check, okay. Oh, you want me to look at? Do they have a chart? Let's see. All right, this is their chart. It's Chinese, I guess. Oh, not a good looking chart. Yeah, okay, so that's definitely from the Hong Kong exchange there. Definitely not a good looking chart. Wow. Okay. Well, that could definitely be a problem. If Bitfinex has got their money tied up in that, that's not good looking right there at all. And it doesn't look like it's turning around anytime soon. So, all right, well, thanks for mentioning that. That's very interesting. So, but like I said, oh, Alex, you're from Romania too? Wow, look at that. I'm very popular over there. Okay, cool. I'm happy to know I have friends in Romania. Because I certainly don't have any in New Jersey. So, all right. But anyway, thank you for bringing that up. Because again, like I said, that Bitfinex situation can turn into something and it can come out of nowhere, even though people have known about this for a long time. Okay? So, I guess, like I said, just, you know, take precautions and protect yourself from those type of events because you don't know if it's going to unfold or not, right? Maybe somehow they'll patch it up. Maybe it'll go away. I don't know. But just like I said before, just protect yourself. Don't have all of your money at one exchange, and just basic precautions, right? Don't have 100% of your money invested in these coins. It's a good idea to have other higher quality investments as well, right? That type of thing. And if something goes wrong here, at least you won't be at the mercy of it. Because like I said, if there's a problem, all these exchanges, there'll be a run, right? That's usually what happens. There's a run on all the exchanges. Everyone's trying to pull all their money out at the same time. And you will not be able to log into your account when that is going on. So you don't want to be stuck in that kind of situation. Okay? Even like stockbrokers, when things get really overwhelming, there's been occasions where you can't even log into your stockbroker account. Right? Like Interactive Brokers, which they're a pretty stable broker. But there's been situations where their servers get overwhelmed. You can't even log into the account. So anyway, Romanians are really smart. So okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, Romanians are smart. All right. But yeah, just understand. You mentioned an interesting word, smart. Just keep something in mind. Markets or success in the markets is not a function of intelligence, right? It's a function of understanding the emotional makeup of the market or the psychology. I'm mentioning this because I saw an ad. I just want to mention this, and I'm going to wrap this up. I saw an ad for, I think it was TD Ameritrade. They had this ad, and in the ad, they were advertising some kind of, they have some kind of new feature on their platform to teach you, to educate you, right? If you don't know anything about stocks or blah, 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 this AI platform is going to learn with you, and it's going to make you a smarter investor. And the tagline was something like, TD Ameritrade, where smart investors invest, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, right off the bat, you're going to lose. Right off the bat, because right away you're implying, or maybe they do that because that's the people that they're appealing to. Like they figure, oh, I'm smart, I can handle this, blah, blah, blah. And that's the recipe for losing all of your money, because people think that it's a function of intelligence. Oh, if I could just figure out the economic this, if I could just figure out the fundamental that, if I could just figure out their balance sheet and I can figure out their future value, blah, 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 blah. All of that means nothing, okay? This is a game of psychology. It's your own, right? It's you versus yourself versus the market psychology, because the herd, right? The herd mentality. They're the ones, there's money floating around, there's money going in and out of the market constantly. It's very random and very, very chaotic. And you not only have to make sense of this random nature and embrace it, right? And protect yourself from it, but you also have to go against or you have to compete with your own fears, right? Fear of missing out, fear of losing, fear of pain, fear of being wrong, those type of things. That's hard to do. People don't realize that. This game is about mostly fear. So if you go into this thinking, well, I'm smart, you're going to lose your money. All right, and a lot of people do that. That's the intuitive thing to do. Sometimes when I talk to someone about stocks or whatever, they'll say, oh, I'm just not smart enough. You don't have to be smart. And I've known a lot of dumb people, right? In the time that I've been in this game, I've known some very dumb people that do well, okay? No intelligence. So just goes to show you. Anyway, okay. It's only, okay, keep my money, okay. Right, and that's fine, Alex. That's fine. You just want to make sure that, you just protect yourself. That's all, right? And whether it's inventory or smaller time frame or shorter term trades, you always have to keep an eye on that risk. When it comes to inventory, I just tell people, look, have your predetermined amount of money, whatever that amount of money is, $1,000, $5,000, whatever it is, and that's it. Right, and if you lose it, you're okay. That's it. If you keep putting more in and more in, especially if it's going against you, what you're doing is it may work out, hopefully, but if you get caught in a situation especially if you're using leverage, you're going to be at the mercy of the market. And either you're going to get margined out, which is out of your control, or you're going to be scared out by your own fear because things get more dramatic than you thought. And then, you know, every news thing you pull up is negative and blah, blah, blah. And you get scared out that way. Happens all the time, especially when things get dramatic, right? This Bitcoin movement, right, that we've been seeing for a while is nothing, right? There's really nothing been going on for a while. That 10,000 point move that we had, you know, like a week ago, whatever, yeah, that caught some people's attention, but obviously it went away, right? But it's possible to see if things get out of hand, you can see a 15 or 20,000 point move in one day. That's going to, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money in that situation because of their own fear and their own greed. All right, so anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. Okay. Yeah, good to have it spread around in different exchanges, right? Don't be stuck with one. And if you're going to be stuck with one, at least Coinbase, you know, again, they're not they're not perfect, but at least they are SEC regulated, at least, and you know, that sort of thing. And they're, you know, they follow some rules, and you can see they have to share certain information publicly, right? While these other companies do not, right? So at least you have that. Anyway, all right, everyone. So thank you all. Let me see, what time is it? Oh, I gotta stop talking. Why didn't you stop me earlier? You have to stop me. I'll talk. I'll keep talking. All right. So I hope you all found this helpful. Again, with this Bitcoin situation, I just want to leave you with this. Don't get caught in this fake out. All right. If it closes like this and we take out this low, it's a sell signal. It may reverse and go long again. It's possible. But the location is not very attractive here. And this will affect all those altcoins that I talked about if this thing breaks, right? And we see 44K again. So just keep that in mind and be prepared, and, you know, make adjustments as necessary. Koala, hey, Aussie dollar. You know, I'm sorry, I got to wrap this thing up now. Thank you for asking me that question. You know, I would like to check out Aussie dollar, but hey, without even looking at it, I can tell you, with US dollar going higher, it's probably weak. Okay, because I looked at the dollar index earlier, and, you know, euro and pound and everything, they're all getting hammered. So I would imagine Aussie is getting hammered too. Keep an eye on the dollar index chart. Okay, if the dollar turns around and reverses, kind of like what this Bitcoin situation is doing here, then, you know, maybe you get a reversal in that Aussie dollar. But right now, Forex has been tough because of the indecisive dollar situation. Okay, so I'll leave you with that. So again, everyone, thank you so much for taking the time. I know in different parts of the world, it's like, you know, midnight and 10 o'clock at night and 2 a.m. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me and all my rants and all my other talk, because I can't stop myself from talking. So again, I hope you found this helpful. On Monday, I'll be streaming again, and hopefully I can figure out this TradingView situation and I can get back on there as well. So again, thank you all for your questions, and thank you very much for watching.